Confounding might be the best way to describe how it feels to watch the Kansas City Chiefs as of late. They do not feel as dominant as they did a few seasons ago, but a few seasons ago, they weren't winning consecutive Super Bowls. A few seasons ago, they did not have the best record in the NFL through 12 games. So how is it that this team feels so bad, feels so troubled, and yet keeps on winning? Well, guys, there was a blurb in the Arrowhead Headlines article today from Bleacher Report that kind of triggered something and made me go on a little bit of a deep dive. And this is going to be a bit of an extensive one because I dug up some resources. I went through some catalogs. I went through some old articles and tried to find answers to those questions. And I think we're just about onto it. But real quick, guys, if you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Kansas City Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. We're nearing the 2 consecutive year mark of daily uploads. And consider subscribing for more Chiefs news. But again, there's a lot to talk about today, so let's get right into it. The Bleacher Report article was titled "Every Team's Biggest X Factor Ahead of 2024 NFL Playoff Push" by Brad Gagnon. And guys, the blurb on the Kansas City Chiefs reads as such: third down. A big reason the Chiefs have remained a prime contender despite a lack of domination on either side of the ball. They execute when it matters most. Specifically, they've converted a league-high 50% of the time on third down. They've also scored 11 touchdowns compared to just 2 turnovers under those same circumstances. That makes anyone damn hard to beat. Okay, great. Fine. But what are we actually looking at with third down percentage? Well, there was a game earlier in the season where we saw something pretty spectacular. From Arrowhead Addict, written by Lyle Graverson, just how good has the Chiefs' offense been on third down lately? This is from just after the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. Lyle wrote this: the Kansas City Chiefs moved to 8-0 with a 30-24 overtime win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. Of those 8 wins this season, 6 of them have been by a touchdown or less. So now we're addressing the margin of victory. So Kansas City may not be dominating opponents, but they are consistently finding a way to do enough to get the job done. Recently, that recipe for success has included being fantastic on third down. The Chiefs were 12 of 18 on third down on Monday night against the Buccaneers. That was converting 2/3 of their third downs. This wasn't a new development for Kansas City either. Over the last 3 games, the Chiefs have converted 32 of 48 third downs. Again, that's exactly 2/3 or 67% conversion rate. That's beyond good for the NFL. That's elite. Their recent success has their season third down conversion rate sitting at 53.2%. That is now tops in the NFL. In fact, they entered Monday Night Football in second place behind the Buccaneers for Kansas City's 12 for 18 conversions, combined with them holding Tampa Bay to 5 of 11 conversions, was enough for them to unseat them for the top spot in the NFL. The Chiefs may not be the explosive big play offense they were in Patrick Mahomes' early years, but they have become a very consistent offense when it comes to consistently making positive yards and picking up first downs. If they can continue to pick up over 50% of their third downs, they'll be hard to beat with the quality defense and special teams they have. If you're wondering how their third down conversion rate compares to previous seasons, here are the list of the past 6 seasons with Patrick Mahomes. 2023, which was a Super Bowl year, 43.6%. They have a higher rate than that right now. 2022, 48.7%. 2021, 52.2%. 2020, 49.0%. And 2019, 47.6%. And finally, 2018, 47.2. So you were looking at a team that was sitting at 53.2% a few weeks ago. That would be the highest rate of the Mahomes era. So, while earlier in the Mahomes era, we were not getting to as many third downs, when we got to third down, we were punting more often. There were more explosive plays in the offense, but there were less third down conversions. These drives by this offense are arduous, are lengthy, and are at times very difficult and frustrating to watch. But there is something else that we need to talk about when this team is talked about. I dug up an article from February 13th of this year on Arrowhead Pride, how the 2023 Chiefs should change how we view football. Not everything has to be perfect for Kansas City to win Super Bowls. This was written by Nate Christensen. In a sub-portion of the article titled, "And Yet the Chiefs Just Won Their Third Super Bowl in 5 Years," we get the following. And here I sit with pie on my face as the team that I didn't believe won the Super Bowl ended up pulling it out. The team that I famously picked to lose to both the Bills and Ravens in the playoffs ended up winning the Super Bowl. So where was I wrong? What did I miss about this team? How could I ever have doubted Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid? Well, it's because the Chiefs had never won like this before. When the Chiefs won their previous Super Bowls, there was no doubt that the Chiefs were an elite football team. In 2019, when Patrick Mahomes, Eric Fisher, Chris Jones, and Tyreek Hill played, they weren't beaten. In fact, this remained the case through both 2019 and 2020 in one of the most underrated two-year runs ever. The Chiefs' defense wasn't quite as good in 2019 as it would be in 2022 or 2023, but by the end of the year, they had rounded into being an above-average unit, and the offense was still reaching supernova levels when they were fully healthy. In my opinion, the only reason why the 2019 team isn't mentioned as one of the best teams ever is because of the playoffs' slow starts. That team was an outstanding football team. In 2022, there was zero doubt that the Chiefs were an elite football team. They undoubtedly had the best offense in the NFL while also having a top 10 defense. The second Trent McDuffie returned from the injured reserve. Their Super Bowl opponent, the Philadelphia Eagles, were also a tremendous team on both sides of the ball and could have won that game, but that version of the Chiefs was a terrific team that I also feel will be underrated over time. So in both 2019 and 2022, I truly believe the Chiefs could win the Super Bowl because I viewed them as an elite group. There was no doubt in my mind they were Super Bowl favorites. Like any team, they had to face adversity in order to win, but there was never a moment that I didn't view them as that level of team. For the 2023 Chiefs, I never viewed them as that. They were clearly always a playoff-level team that would be a tough out, but I genuinely thought that the Ravens and Bills, and particularly the Ravens, were among the best teams I'd ever watched. So what did I get wrong? Well, the way I view football can be very analytical and to a fault. I view what I watch on Sundays through the statistics as the way I measure elite teams. I don't think about football as who is the tougher, stronger group of the players, but how they look on the football field and how they match up with opposing teams. If you have elite units on both sides of the ball, I will take you seriously as a Super Bowl level team. The 2023 Chiefs weren't that. Analytically, this wasn't an elite team like 2019 or 2022. They were massively flawed. Even within this playoff run, the offense had a ton of moments of mistakes or sputters as they had to grind out these games, even with playoff focus and experience. This team had many flaws that showed up in each level of their last 3 wins. And yet, where I was wrong on this team is that resiliency, perseverance, and experience do matter. Those factors are shown in every Super Bowl team ever. It doesn't always have to be analytical. Sometimes just having a team with the right mindset and mentality can be enough when you have an all-time quarterback, coach, and one elite unit. So moving forward, I'll now view the Chiefs as a team differently. I won't be as analytical and buy into those factors. Have we all taken that pill? The 2023 Chiefs proved to me that the factors that are unquantifiable matter. Just because you don't appear to be a Super Bowl level team doesn't mean you can't be one. As long as this team has the core tenets of their foundation moving forward, they should be viewed as a team that can win a Super Bowl in a year. And for the last time, I couldn't have been more wrong on the 2023 Chiefs. I'm glad they proved me wrong, and I'll revere what they did as a team for the rest of my life. That is the final article here. Now, what I always try to do for you guys in these shows is I try to bring you a source, a number or numbers, and opinion. The sources in this case had the numbers buried within them. So here's the opinion. What we are seeing with the Kansas City Chiefs appearing to struggle but winning all of these games is not a coincidence, it is a philosophy. The Kansas City Chiefs are going out there and learning on the job, as it were. The Kansas City Chiefs are one of the things that Andy Reid loves to do is put your defense in a blender. What do I mean by that? He has motion going this way and that. He has different sets that confuse the defense you like to run. And many of the plays in the Kansas City Chiefs offense are isolation plays, even if they are not 43 toss ISO, whatever, you know what I'm saying. If they are not that, what they are doing is they are targeting a specific player on a defense and hoping to execute against that player. They will put, if they know you're running, cover two players deep in the strong safeties zone, and that guy has to make a read. That guy has to choose his poison. That is what it means when Andy Reid is cited as being an offensive genius. What this team has been doing, running through so many wide receivers, is that guy who was lost the guy replacing the guy who was lost has to learn exactly who it is that's supposed to be targeted on each play, therefore has to run the route he needs to run, regardless of whether or not he is the one who's supposed to get the football. And still be ready for Patrick Mahomes to unload it. This is one of the things that we have seen, I think, pop up as a problem from time to time for Nuke Hopkins. There are times the drops that he has for the Kansas City Chiefs, those aren't passes that he normally drops. It appears that he is not prepared for the ball to be coming out of Patrick Mahomes' hand at the angle, at the velocity, at the rate, whatever it is, that it is leaving Patrick Mahomes' hand, and it catches him a bit surprised. Regardless of this, the Kansas City Chiefs do still have an elite third down conversion percentage. They do not get behind the chains this season. This makes us think that they are not looking good, but they are executing what they have to execute at a high level. It's one thing for a team to have explosive plays and to get ahead of schedule. You have Tyreek Hill out there who runs a very fast 40-yard dash, and he's able to get the edge, and he's gone. That makes you look really good. But all you did on that drive was execute one play that ended up going for 80 yards. We are seeing this season, especially with Kareem Hunt, and I appreciate what Kareem Hunt has done this year. He's not an explosive guy, not anymore, doesn't have it. Has zero explosive plays through all of the carries that he has garnered for the Kansas City Chiefs so far this season. Well, that's fine, because the Chiefs on 1st and 10 are executing and they're getting the yardage that they need to get. Again, on 2nd down, they might not be picking up a 60-yard touchdown, but they're getting enough yards to make 3rd down convertible. That is what we are seeing for this team. They are doing what they need to when they need to do it. Andy Reid loves, like I said earlier, to put players in a blender. Sometimes what that means is trotting out plays that you know have a low percentage chance of working. Why? Why do you do that? Well, because a team has to spend time examining what you do out of every formation. So if you pull out one of these formations and you do play A, B, and C out of it, by week 10, by week 11, by week 12, opposing defenses are only prepared for plays A, B, and C out of that formation. But when all of a sudden Andy Reid pulls out play D, while normally in that formation, every passing play was targeting the strong safety, Andy Reid pulls out play D, which targets the outside linebacker. Once that outside linebacker is targeted, he'd better be prepared. Because if not, he's going to fall victim to a 5-yard out route by a running back out of the backfield who had never run that route out of that formation for the Kansas City Chiefs before. Which moves me to point 2 here. The term practice is not quite fair. This is something I've said on this channel. This is something that Nick Wright has said. This is something that many creators on YouTube have rallied against. Perhaps I'm willing to take the blame. I am wrong in deploying that term. So is Nick Wright, but in fairness, I think Nick Wright got it from me. Nick, if you were here, you'd better leave a comment. I see you using my arguments on television, and it does not make me happy. I'm just putting that out there, but the term practice is not quite fair because of those principles. The Chiefs do practice at practice. The Chiefs do learn these plays. The Chiefs do execute them against their own defense. But that is different. It's very different executing a play against practice players versus live fire NFL action. The players who are executing these plays have to read the defense correctly. You can only do so much for helping your players read the defense correctly in a practice situation. When the Chiefs roll out these formations and these plays and these combinations on Sunday, a lot of times they're seeing these plays against certain formations, certain coverages, certain etc. for the first time. It is an extensive playbook that Andy Reid employs, and because of that, lots of things look like they're happening for this offense for the first time. But every time something actually rolls out for the first time on Sundays, it means the opposing defense has to approach that formation in a new way. This is part of what we see with the Kansas City Chiefs postseason success. Part of the Chiefs postseason success is the fact that in the postseason, Patrick Mahomes knows it's do or die, so he's going to take off. If he sees green grass ahead of him, he's going to take off. During the regular season, he does not do that as much because the risk of injury is simply too great. But another part of that, all we have to do is think back to the 2023 Kansas City Chiefs. Watching Rashee Rice run routes in the mid to downfield range for the first time basically all season in the postseason, adding to the Kansas City Chiefs' success because, well, opposing defenses had not seen Rashee Rice do that. Opposing defenses had seen Rashee Rice stop at the line of scrimmage, turn towards the quarterback, and put his hands up. That was what he did through most of the season. All of a sudden, in the postseason, Rashee Rice on a 5-yard crossing route was unlocked. Rashee Rice on a 10-yard crossing route was unlocked. And now he's torching NFL defenses. We have seen a little bit of the same evolution in Xavier Worthy's routes run this season. Here's the funny part. We have not seen the Kansas City Chiefs during the regular season thus far in desperation mode. We haven't seen them having to lob 60-yard passes because they're down 3 scores. That is still in their back pocket. Xavier Worthy and his 4.21 speed is still in the Kansas City Chiefs' back pocket. Yes, it is apparent that opposing defenses are preparing for that inevitability. That's why a lot of the underneath stuff has been opened up this year versus last year. But, guys, you have the most lethal passer of the football with the most lethal arm strength in the NFL. And he hasn't really gotten to put that on display this season. Now, part of that is the fact that their left tackle situation appears less than ideal. But with DJ Humphries hopefully taking over the reins to the left tackle position, allowing the younger guys a little bit more time on the practice field and not getting Patrick Mahomes mushed on Sundays, they might decide to open that up a little bit even before the playoffs. And here's the final note here. Yeah, it's been a bit of a rough few seasons for this offense, at least aesthetically. But they've been winning Super Bowls. They've still been advancing to AFC Championship games. With Tyreek Hill, the Kansas City Chiefs had 1 ring. Post Tyreek Hill, the Kansas City Chiefs have 2 rings. By the way, the Kansas City Chiefs have 2 Super Bowl rings in 2 Super Bowl tries. The duo of Tyreek Hill, who's going to be a Hall of Famer, and Travis Kelce, who's going to be a Hall of Famer, was just so good that it was hard to diagnose the offense, oftentimes, as struggling. But those teams still lost games. Those teams, as we saw from the article on Arrowhead Pride here, those teams fell behind big in the playoffs. This team is not doing that. Not yet. This team is not losing games. Last year, they lost the most games of the Patrick Mahomes era. This year, the Kansas City Chiefs could lose out and end with the same record that they had last year. Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. Is it likely? I do not think so. So the Kansas City Chiefs, even with all of these injuries, should end up being, by their record, better than the Kansas City Chiefs iteration that won the Super Bowl last year. Has a chance to be better by its record than the Kansas City Chiefs iteration that won the Super Bowl in 2022. Could be better, at least by record, than any iteration of the Kansas City Chiefs in the Patrick Mahomes era. This Chiefs team still has that potentiality on the table, despite what it is, how rough it is, that they have looked both on offense and defense this year. That article from Arrowhead Pride mentioned that as long as the Chiefs have 1 elite unit, I will consider them Super Bowl contenders. Well, this year, they don't really have an elite unit. But they do have elite functions. The defense is elite against the run. The offense is elite on 3rd down. Guys, I promise you, tune in to any NFL playoff broadcast from the past 20 years, 25 years, and listen to the verbiage that they use. What is it that's going to win games in the playoffs? The running game. Well, the defense is taking that away from opposing offenses. The Chiefs might have the best rushing attack of the Patrick Mahomes era once Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt are both on the same page in this offense. The other thing that will win you, well, there's a few things that'll win you games in the playoffs. Sacking the quarterback will do it, and the Kansas City Chiefs have Charles Omenihu back for that. Joshua Uche has not yet come on, and Chris Jones, as well as George Karlaftis, are starting to reemerge with the presence of Charles Omenihu. But the other thing that will win you games in the playoffs is ball control. Do you know what the number one measurement for ball control is? Third down conversion rate. This team executes when they need to, and it appears that they are going to continue to do so. That is all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, consider hitting the subscribe button. Stick around for more Kansas City Chiefs videos in the future. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.